So I'm going to be talking about measuring the value of links. Now, if anyone that has seen me speak before, I really care a lot about this. And it's something that I, through my time working in SEO, have talked about a lot, but also have changed the way that we do things at Verve. So I've been running Verve for 11 years. So I started in SEO in 2005. Started Verve in 2009, and we were always an agency that kind of specialized in the kind of the outreach, or what we call then just link building. And what we've been doing throughout the years have very much changed. But I think that it's quite obvious to say that we know that Google changes the algorithm hundreds of times every year, but they have been directionally saying the same thing for a decade. Eric Schmidt said in 2008, I believe, brands are the solution, brands are how you sort out the cesspool. I love that he said cesspool. Or in 2011, Matt Cutts said, we actually came up with a classifier to say, you know, Wikipedia, New York Times on this side and the local site on this side. Now, there's so many years that they have been talking about this, and they are repeatedly altering the algorithm to give higher and higher value to the sites that are trusted, authoritative, highly read, and routinely receive links from brands and other publishers. But the way we measure and report on links has not really changed much at all in the last 15 years. And this is a problem because we get quite often asked still from clients that they want 250 links a month. In fact, this is 250 might be their like magic thing, because this seems to be the thing that most people want. So saying we want 250 links a month is actually quite a useless request, because I could get you 35,000 in 2 seconds, but they won't be very good, and it might even hurt you. In fact, a research that was done in 2018, so it's a little bit old now. I think they have updated some of the data, but I think this slide is the best representative. You know, blogs are still heavily selling links. So if doing blogger outreach or doing number of links, if this is how your strategy is steering you towards, not only might not do anything, but it might also be very risky. In the travel industry, for example, in 2016, it was 48% of the travel blogs sold links. And the point here is that it's irrelevant whether you pay for the link. If anyone pay for the link, that link is not going to be worth anything. And it's also not really relevant whether anyone paid for the link now, but if they charge for links anytime in the future, that will also be a bad link. So saying number of links is not really very useful. And then we have kind of evolved a little bit while we say things like, we want 50 links of DA 30 or higher. That's also quite common. Although I would say that it is quite usual that if you see a path like this, and I tell you need to go to the end of this path, you probably wouldn't walk in the same direction as that guy in blue. You would go down what they call the desire paths, the shortest, easiest route between two locations. So if you have asked for 50 links with 30 DA or higher, you probably will get 50 links of DA 30. So that's not very good metric either. Also, traditional metrics don't take into account things like language. Like on the left, you have a Russian site, which has a trust flow of 84, and then you have the Chicago Tribune on the right side with a trust flow of 72. Now, you would be mistaken if you thought that the best link for Go Compare would be getting the Russian sites, which has a higher trust flow, because the relevancy and the language is clearly better of the Chicago Tribune. Also, things like penalties is not taken into account on site where we measure just the DA. You might have a site that has DA 40 and then a site that has DA 60, but it has a site-wide manual penalty. Now, you won't be able to see that and won't know that this is actually not a good link. Again, it doesn't take everything you need into account. Scale is also an issue with traditional metrics. So, for example, BBC has a DA 95, Verve Search has a DA 43. That does not mean that 2 links from a Verve Search equivalent DA is the same as 1 BBC link. That doesn't make any sense. And we never really talk about a link on its own. We talk about links. We always talk about links. So if we have no way of combining them and knowing what the value of all of them was together, it makes it really difficult to measure and to plan and to scale. So the way we measure and report on links is broken, and we incentivize the wrong kind of links, and we fail to show the combined value of our efforts. So back in 2014, we started working on an algorithm that took into account off and on-site metrics that we thought were important. Now we have used this metric within Verve since 2014. And only this year, we have now put this as a public scoring metric, mostly because I'm just so fed up of still having to go to pitches or talk to clients about number of links. And so we are sharing this with the industry. It's not expensive. The only reason we charge anything at all is that a lot of the APIs we use cost money. So it's pretty much at cost. So we incorporated these signals into link score. So link score in a nutshell include things like taking into account relevance, language, country, topic, site popularity, link type, follow, no follow, syndication, site authority, and penalties. So let me just tell you how that works. So link score has a score from 0 to 500. So each link can get a score from 0 to 500. Now, a BBC homepage link might get a score of 494. That's the very, very high up, like one of the best links to get. It's really fucking difficult to get a BBC homepage link. So that is really the kind of glass ceiling. While a popular but online only publisher like the Good News Network might get a score of 159. While the right example is a blog from Denmark, and it's a very specific professional blog, but it is just a blog link that might only get a score of 14. Now I say might because relevancy is important here. So it will get slightly different points depending on the relevancy of that site to the site you're building links to. But in average, these are the kind of scores you can expect from BBC and Good News Network and so on. So when you see them in the difference of the scorings of these sites, we kind of instinctively know that, the Guardian and the BBC, etc., are good links. But it's more important that we know that a lot of the other sites are not as valuable, and spending the time of building those links might not yield any results. So here's an example of where we've increased the client's position for domain names with 50 positions. So basically down from 53 to position 3 with only 22 links. So there's only 22 links that it took to increase that much. That was literally just in very short space of time as well. Because those 22 links included these sites. In fact, those 22 links got a link score of 3,000. Now, you remember the BBC homepage being 494? That's like the equivalent of several BBC homepage links. And that is why they were so valuable. So 3,000 link score is the equivalent of like 87 Verve search sites or 1,500 of those blogs. Now you can see just how much more worth it is to spend the time on those high authority sites than it is on those blog sites. Would you really bother building 1,500 blog links to get to the same value as you could in 22 links? And this is why we need to push the industry to go towards this. This is one of my favorite stats. I've shared loads of times. You might have seen it before, but repetition is how people get things in. So 50% of all website traffic in the UK goes to only 73 websites. The other 50% of traffic is between millions and millions of sites. Those 73 websites are these, and looking at loads of different other markets. So this is taken from SimilarWeb, so you can do the data yourself as well. Looking at all other types of countries as well, it is between 70 and the tops I've seen is like 96 sites that get 50% of the website traffic in those countries. Now, this is important because even if you didn't give a shit about link score, by this stat alone, it was quite obvious which sites has the most authority. If they get 50% of their traffic, imagine the authority they have. And there are loads of sites in here that you can target. Also, some they probably shouldn't target. Funnily enough, there are some sites that are the same in every country in the world that we've done this, and I'm going to leave you guessing which sites those are. To get those high authority sites, though, you need to create campaigns that deserve more than just the link. Now, I feel extremely passionate about this because the only reason we get seen as an industry as being cowboys or being, doing dodgy stuff is because we're always trying to get to the shortest path, to do the shortcut to get to somewhere. But I think that the opposite is true. We need to create something that is so deserving of a link that it also gets additional stuff. So you need to also think about your audience. The journalist is really the main target. The first target is not the audience that's reading it, it's the journalist. It's what the journalist needs to be doing. So I think we talked about this a little bit earlier as well, but it was one of our journalists on the panel at the Outreach conference a couple of years ago that shared this stat, and it completely shocked me. How many articles do you think an average journalist has to write per day? Fucking hell, 15 articles. It would take me an entire day to write one blog post. Imagine if you had to write 15 articles a day. You would be knackered. And you certainly wouldn't want to be chatting to people or talking about your weekend or whatever. These people are extremely busy. And how they are measured has changed a lot. Not only have they got to create more content, but the content needs to do more. The important measurements that are now measurements for journalists are things like views and times on page, which has been for a long time, but also comments and social shares. Engagement is one of the most important measures for a journalist. So we need to care about this. So creating content that will help the journalists deliver their targets. And that's, again, why you should be creating content that deserves more than just the link itself, including print coverage. And, it's not all of our campaigns that get print coverage. Neither do we make this as part of the objective when we do the campaigns. But if you can get print coverage and radio and TV coverage for your campaigns, it is very unlikely that this is going to be deemed dodgy in any way from Google now or in the future. Things like social shares are also extremely helpful. One, for getting the authority and having the backing and the approval from these big organizations. I think one of my favorite moments ever was when we had NASA Climate share a campaign from British Gas, which I think is just super cool. Influencers can also be extremely helpful. Again, we do not do anything to specifically target them. It kind of has to be something that happens naturally. That comes from really focusing on the ideas that are surprising, that are nostalgic, and all those things that Mark talked about earlier today. So I've got a few examples of campaigns to show you. So we've seen some of these earlier today, but Bus Bingo is a fantastic client. And I think this is the important thing to say, is that in outreach, I think one of the most important factors in order to be able to do successful creative campaigns is having a client that trusts that you know what you're doing. So them trusting us in knowing that we can come up with ideas that might not sound like the idea that you think will make it, but that will do really well. It has such a big impact on how well you can do. So for Bus Bingo, in the last 6 months, we have launched a series of entertainment-specific campaigns. So gambling is quite a difficult industry, but if you get it right and you get the entertainment campaign right, you can do extremely well. So this is a campaign we did called Movie Mortality, um, which is basically about the movies and the actors that die the most in movies, which is surprisingly, and again, it comes down to the surprising thing, and this was definitely based on like idea we had on Director's Cut, which we did years ago. Um, Number one movie deaths of all time is Danny Trejo. I might not pronounce that right, with 65 movie deaths. He must be just so depressed every time he gets a script. He must just be thinking, okay, when am I going to die? This did extremely well. It got front page on Reddit, and it was shared by Daniel Trejo himself. Again, it's not something we went out to do that way, but that really helped with the sharing of the campaign and also getting more links. This got 208 links, and it got a link score of 10,000. Again, thinking about what the BBC homepage is worth, then you see that the link score, not the number, the link score is the thing that makes it really understandable just how well that campaign did. It also got loads of views. We measure coverage views, which is a very common thing to do in PR. It's not overly accurate, but the clients like to know what the estimation of that is. The other one that was also shared earlier today was Profanity on Film, which is quite a recent campaign. Jonah Hill being the actor that swears the most in a movie ever. 376 swear words per 1,000 words. That's quite a lot. That got NME coverage. It got The Guardian coverage, linked to the client straight away. You also got a segment at 1 minute 48 on Today's Show, where they talked about the campaign and shared it on Twitter. And Jonah Hill himself shared it, and they had a bit of a chat with Seth Rogen about how proud he was of having the most swears. It was quite funny and awesome. Like, the team loved it. Again, these social things doesn't increase the ranking, so it's not really the point of what we're doing. It's just that if you can get that kind of engagement, that conversation, this is where things really start taking off. So this got 504 links and 20,000 in link score, and a lot of coverage in the US as well as the UK. So in total, for those 3 campaigns, and I think I think we've done about 5 campaigns in the last 6 months. The total link score for this is what is important. You know, the number of links counts very little, and also we are not necessarily outreaching to all of these sites, but because we are targeting the big authority sites, you get snowballing of additional links after that. If you get these big links, especially in entertainment, it is very easy to roll up. The main thing is that we need to consistently grow in link score in order to increase rankings. And if we're really honest with ourselves, the whole point of what we're doing is to increase rankings. So from September 2019 to March 2020 is the consistently growth of link score that we can then measure. That then translates into increase in rankings for specific keywords. So bingo obviously being a very difficult one, and very big keyword that are consistently increasing and so on. But also the organic traffic in total. This is SEMrush data, so this is public, 13 times year on year. So next example I wanted to show you is GoCompare. And this is, I think, is a better example because it's not the outlier. And this is about the slightly more boring topics, and how it is entirely possible to get coverage and how important the consistent coverage is. So GoCompare we worked with for 4 years. And after the EAT update, GoCompare lost ranking for one of their most important keywords, which was car insurance, which made them really sad, of course, and made us even sadder. And so in January 2019, we focused on car insurance only, and we launched 7 campaigns in the period of 6 months, all within the topic of cars, but not about car insurance. And this is something we always repeat to clients. It's like, it's not about selling your product. It's about increasing your ranking so you can sell more product. So this is ideas around speed offenses, professional drivers, offensive driving, and I'm going to show you a bit more about that later. When you see the links there, it doesn't mean a lot until I will show you at the end the link score and how different those links were in terms of value. So basically, the campaign with the most links there is the offensive driving. But as you can see, the Electric Avenues campaign, which I will show you in a bit, had a link score of 7,000. That's quite a lot more. It had nearly half the links, but more than double, nearly treble the actual link score. So not every link is worth the same. And I'm going to show why that is. So offensive driving was a pretty cool campaign looking, it was a survey looking at things, the driving offenses that people might have done, and also comparing a male and female and so on. It got 196 links and only 2,000 in link score. Now, you might see the reason why the link score was so low by the types of link we got. So we always try to do some campaigns that do well with the nationals and the local papers. And this campaign did really well with the local papers. The challenge with a lot of the local papers, though, is that they are in syndication. So some of those nearly 200 links were syndicated. And the score for link score is reduced on those links because our data shows us if a link doesn't make its way into the primary index, it's probably not passing much value. So for each of those links that were syndicated, we give very little of the value of the link score. So there will be loads of these that went onto one, like Yorkshire Post, and then went to 10 other sites by a syndication, which meant that they get, I think, is 10% of the link score value. Very similar to follow and no follow. So no follow doesn't count as much. This campaign also got some big links like the Mirror, which wasn't a follow. Therefore, that counted for less as well. So once you see this for the next campaign, so Electric Avenues, it's actually one of my favorites, talking about the number of electric cars sold and then the charging points in loads of different countries. The really interesting angle that did really well here was that Australia very shockingly had hardly any charging points for electric cars, and obviously huge for petrol stations. That is obviously to do a lot with the distance, but also not really excuse enough. So this campaign got 123 links, but 7,000 in link score. Again, looking at the sites that we got from this, there are a lot of big sites, but also big sites that do follow. So for this campaign specifically, we got coverage from news.com in Australia. It also made itself to ZDNet, and most impressively, and which is probably the reason it's one of my favorites, it made itself to the Australian Senate as a discussion point, the actual report from GoCompare, on why Australia is missing so many charging points and what they can do about it. So that was a great additional big thing for the campaign. But the reason that it got so much more in link score is that there were a lot less local papers that syndicates, and there were a lot of big sites that do follow. So the link score is a lot higher. Again, looking at the total of this, 7 campaigns, 22,000 in link score, 1,000 links, and about 2 million views. 1,000 links in its own sounds great, but it really makes such a difference where you can actually see that one campaign is doing better than another because it had less no follow and so on. I am of the opinion that syndicated links does not count as the same as a normal link. And so for that period of the 6 months, GoCompare went back up to position 1. That was a lot of effort, 7 campaigns launched in that short space of time. So, and then another reason why we use LinkScore, and again, look, this isn't necessarily about you having to use LinkScore. I do not care whether you use LinkScore or not, but it is there, and I've spent a lot of my career developing and fine-tuning this. And we use this through the entire agency, and also to incentivize and empowering teams. So this means that you can also set LinkScore targets per employee, which changes the way that they think about things. So if you are set with, so the average target of someone that is the medium level outreach is about 600 LinkScore a month. So if your point is to get 600 in LinkScore rather than it's being about 100 links, you are incentivizing to go out to those big sites and those high authority sites rather than to go out and at the end of the month just get 40 links for some blogs. Not that anyone would do that, but it does make them focus on the right thing. So within the LinkScore tool, which will be live next week, and you're welcome to sign up to it, you are able to see the LinkScore and the total for the client, but also per campaign, and maybe one of the most importantly, per person, so that you can actually measure people and how they are performing, and then be able to work with them to then understand, is this campaign struggling? Do we need to go back and look at what we're doing for this? And also report on this in a format where you'll be able to say, this is the LinkScore, this is the total links, this is the social shares, and so on. Now, obviously, we've been using this forever. Like, there's no one at Verve today that hasn't used the LinkScore ever. So this is obviously very ingrained use for us. Again, the beta access to LinkScore is you can sign up now. We're not quite finished with it. We've done a lot of testing with it and bug fixing and stuff. So it should be finished in the next week or so. Again, the internal version we've been using for years. The only reason we're putting this live is because I think we will all benefit from focusing on better metrics than number of links, than links with DA or trust flow, etc. Because there's so many more sophisticated things in that linking algorithm that we need to take into account, and for us then to be able to scale that. So if you don't want to use that, that's fine, but please stop counting links and think that that's meaningful. You can continue counting links by all means. It's like something we all kind of say as in they got this many links, but thinking that it's meaningful is what I have a problem with, because I don't think it does. So again, I think if we really think about this, there are better ways of doing it, and feel free to create your own metric of what will make a link a good link and what makes a bad link. But I do think it's quite safe to say that doing blogger outreach as a strategy for outreach is not really a sustainable strategy in 2020 and going forward, because you won't get enough authority for that to make any change in the rankings. By all means, do blogger outreach for marketing purposes, and if you want to target influencers and stuff, that's a marketing thing. But thinking that's a link thing, I say no, and you can disagree with me. I'm used to it. Okay, that's what I have. I managed to go through that quite quickly. So if there's any questions, have we got time for that?
Hello, there I am. Hi. Okay, yeah, we've got lots of questions for you, Lisa, and please do keep them coming, guys, if you have any other questions. So first question from Laura, how do you quantify relevance?
Okay, so relevance is one, obviously based on the language and the industry. So I think relevance is more related to the category. So I don't know whether you know that in Google, they now have a category association, so that you can, what is it called? I think it might be called Google Category, where you put in your site and it will tell you what category Google thinks your site is relevant to. Now, I think that is quite an important tool, because it will then tell you which sites you should be getting links from. So the sites, the type of sites you get links from, based on the category they associate with, that's a relevance. Also, keywords can be a relevance. So part of the link score tool is that you can put in specific keywords that describe your industry, and it will judge it on that. But we also use the Google category to know what are more relevant sites for your industry. In fact, I think that is the most important thing going forward. It's not really as much about talking about car insurance. It's about getting links that are closely associated with the category for car insurance, which is more finance and cars. And so it is that specific one. You need quite a big diversity of the finance related money saving sites and that kind of stuff, as well as car related. You need the right kind of relevance of site linking into.
Okay, then next question, what would you prioritize? Multiple links from the same domain or multiple links from separate domains?
Oh, good question. That is it's quite complicated to answer. So we tend to want links from different sites. So by saying that, so I would definitely want different sites for one campaign, but that is not to say that when we start working on the next campaign, we still want the Guardian to link to that campaign. So you would like the Guardian to link every time that you do a campaign, but I do also believe that if you get the same kind of publication or the same kind of link over and over, it doesn't count for the same authority, if you will, apart from some of the very big ones, which is obviously in that publishing kind of sphere where the links go old, and so getting a new one is better than having the old one. That is a complicated answer to that, but it is a complicated difference. But the short answer is I would rather have different sites than I would the same link over and over, if you put like a gun to my head.
Okay, Juanita would like to know, if a journalist includes 3 links in one story, do you count that as 1 link or 3? She's always counted it as 1, but it would be good to get your insight.
We count it as 1.
Yeah.
So we might say that we might count it as a number of links, but it is unique domains. And in the link score, you don't get any extra for having several links in one article. So it is really only counted once. But what does count more, though, is if you get 1 link to the campaign page and 1 to the home page. Now, that's yummy. Have some of that.
Do you still dilute the link score if a syndication piece doesn't canonicalize to the original?
It depends if the content is the same. So we don't if it's based on the same content, but it's written differently. So some of them have obviously canonicalized whoever had the first and then put the canonical tag on. But for the ones that don't do that, and the ones is exactly the same, we treat it as Google knows that it's canonicalized. But if the article is slightly different, then it would count as a separate link.
Okay, the Moz DA score is logarithmic. Sorry, the BBC score compared to Verve Search would be no, sorry, actually that's a comment. Okay, do you measure and target link score per country when your campaigns are localized to a specific country?
Yes, absolutely, and that's 100% necessary. So the link score is slightly different in the different countries as well. So, for example, countries like Norway, there's a very, very small amount of .no domains because there are very strict rules on this. So getting a .no domain has a higher value than maybe getting a .co.uk link in the UK. So it is different from each country. And when we are outreaching in a specific country, we definitely want as many as possible links from that country in that language. Language is more important than CCTLD though.
And so would the maximum link score be the same, or if you were doing a campaign in Denmark?
Ah, good question. Yes, it is still the same, but the how you get there is slightly different because there are less links. So although the site, if you looked on it, and this is why again link score has a different measurement. So if you look at a site in Norway, they might only get a DA of like, the average DA might be 35 or 40, even for the really high authority sites. While the link score would know that there are a lot less sites in Norway, and therefore the value is more than it would seem like. So that I think is quite important to differentiate.
A question of how much the link score costs to use.
Oh, good question. Lute, can you remember? It's not expensive. It's like, it's free, 10 free every month. So you can do 10 links every month. And I think it's like £25.
Yeah.
£25 a month. And
yeah.
the main reason is that we have to use Majestic, and we also use some SEMrush data in there. And we have to pay for all the ones that every time we run it. So I will give you the exact answer to that. I should really know this. But I've been working so much on the product that I haven't really thought about this, but it's not expensive.
What factor has the biggest weighting in the link score?
If I tell you that, I have to kill you. No, TrustFlow. We prefer TrustFlow to DA. So TrustFlow is part of it. Yeah, I can't really tell you exactly the ratings of all of the different things. But what you can see, and what is quite useful, is showing how you measure normally, and then taking the link score and doing a test like that and see whether that makes sense to you. You could quite easily see that it probably does.
Okay, right. In link score, how did you weight metrics, like for example, relevance against something like a number of linking domains, without having access to Google to see this?
Again, that's the metric part. Sorry, I can't really answer too many things of the background of this. It is 5 years in the making.
Okay, is there any other questions that anyone's got on this? Otherwise, I suggest we take...
I will share the links as well. I will share the how to sign up to the beta, and if there are any questions, James Finlayson at Verve will be happy to answer them. See if I did that. And yeah, thanks very much for letting me rant about oh, I said rant instead of rant. Must be thinking about him. About link score and the value of links.